Grab your rosaries, dust off your Aristotle. We're about to embark on a mind-bending journey through the life and thoughts of Thomas Aquinas, the 13th century Dominican friar who became the Catholic Church's philosophical champion. So put on your thinking caps, or perhaps a monk's cowl, because we're about to dive deep into the realm of faith and reason. Born in 1225 in a hilltop castle in southern Italy, Thomas was the youngest son of Count Landulf of Aquino. His family had high hopes for young Thomas. They wanted him to follow in the footsteps of his uncle and become the abbot of the prestigious Benedictine monastery. Talk about family pressure. But Thomas had other ideas. At the tender age of 19, he dropped a theological bombshell on his family. He wanted to join the newly formed Dominican order. It's like your whole family is Florida Gator fans and you decide to root for FSU. As you can imagine, his family was not pleased, to put it mildly. They went so far as to imprison him for a year in an attempt that he would change his mind. Legend has it they even sent a prostitute to his room to tempt him away from his vocation, but Thomas, ever the model of virtue, probably a bit socially awkward, chased her away with a burning stick from the fireplace. That's a whole different version of being on fire for God. Eventually, his family relented and Thomas joined the Dominicans. He studied under Albert the Great in Paris, earning the nickname the Dumb Ox due to his large size and quiet demeanor. But Albert recognized Thomas's genius, famously declaring, "We call this man a dumb ox, but his bellowing in doctrine will one day resound throughout the world." Spoiler alert, Albert was right. Imagine walking into a centuries-old debate between faith and reason and declaring, why not both? That's essentially what Aquinas did in his masterpiece, the Summa Theologica. It's like he's saying, hey, everyone, listen, Aristotle and Jesus can totally be bros. Here are some of the key concepts you're going to find in the work. First is faith and reason. This is really kind of Aquinas' philosophical power move. It's the foundation of his entire system. He's saying, listen up folks, faith and reason aren't enemies. They're more like best friends who sometimes finish each other's sandwiches, sentences. It's like Aquinas is hosting the ultimate philosophical dinner party and both theologians and philosophers are invited. Aquinas argues that while faith and reason are distinct, they can't contradict each other because they both come from God. It's like he's saying God wouldn't give us a brain and then expect us not to use it. So in this argument, he then moves to the 5 ways that we can prove God's existence. And this is going to be kind of like his mic drop for his famous proofs. The first is the argument from motion. Something must have started this whole cosmic deal. It's like Aquinas is saying the universe didn't just wake up one day and decide to do Zumba. 2 is the argument from causation, that there must be a first cause, Q in Aristotle. It's Aquinas' way of saying it's causes all the way down until it isn't. And then the argument from contingency, something necessary must exist to explain all these contingent things. It's like he's saying the universe isn't just winging it. And then you have the argument from degree. If we can compare things, there must be a perfect standard. It's Aquinas' way of saying you can't have good, better, and best without a perfectness, perfectionist, perfectness. And then the argument from design. This world shows signs of an intelligence in the design. It's like Aquinas is looking at the cosmos and saying this is way too fancy to be an accident. Big groundbreaking stuff related to apologetics. And then we move to essence and existence. Aquinas argues that in everything except God, essence, what a thing is, and existence, that it is, are distinct. In God alone, essence and existence are identical. It's like he's saying for God to be or not to be, it's not even a question. And then natural law. Aquinas proposed that there are universal moral laws built into nature and discernible by reason. It's like he's saying morality, it's not just a human invention, it's written into the very cosmic source code. And then just war theory. Aquinas lays out conditions for when war can be morally justified. It's like he's the original military ethics consultant telling leaders before you go to war, make sure you've checked all of these philosophical boxes. And then, like a good Catholic, we have virtues and vices. Aquinas gives a detailed breakdown of the virtues, which are good habits, and vices, which are bad habits. It's like he's creating a moral fitness program. Exercise your virtues and put those vices on a diet. Now, this work was so comprehensive that it became the go-to textbook for Catholic theology for centuries. It is like the philosophical equivalent of a greatest hits album. Everyone knows the popular tracks, even if they haven't listened to the deep cuts. Now, here's where Aquinas' story, it takes an unexpected twist. On December 6, 1273, celebrating Mass, Aquinas had a mystical experience, and it changed everything. He told his secretary, "I can write no more. All that I have written seems like straw to me." Imagine dropping the mic in the middle of your magnum opus. It's like Aquinas suddenly realized he was trying to fit the infinite into the finite and decided, nah, I'm out. And so he left his Summa Theologia unfinished, which is why it ends kind of abruptly with a discussion on penance. Now, this dramatic turn, it has puzzled scholars for centuries. Was it a spiritual epiphany? Did he have a nervous breakdown? Or did Aquinas just decide he needed a really long vacation? Whatever the reason, it adds a layer of mystery to this philosophical superstar. Now, before his mystical mic drop, Aquinas penned another heavyweight work, the Summa Contra Gentiles. This was like his philosophical fight club where he took on all corners. Some of the key ideas are first, a rational defense of Christianity. Aquinas argues that many Christian doctrines can be defended through reason alone. It's like he's saying, hey, non-Christians, let's chat. I think you'll find this Jesus fellow is actually quite logical. Second were the limits of reason. But Aquinas isn't claiming reason can prove everything. He argues some doctrines, like the Trinity, it can only be known through revelation. It's like he's saying reason can take us pretty far, but if we want to get to that really mind-bending stuff, we need God to spill the tea. And then 3, engagement with Islamic and Jewish philosophy. Aquinas seriously engages with these thinkers. It's like he's kind of hosting this interfaith philosophical potluck, saying bring your best ideas and let's see if they work together. And then the nature of God. Aquinas goes deep on God's attributes, arguing for divine simplicity, perfection, goodness, infinity, immutability, eternity, and unity. It's like he's creating kind of the ultimate divine profile, God, infinite, perfect, eternal, swipe right for salvation. Now, this work showed that Aquinas wasn't just preaching to the choir, he wanted to engage different worldviews. It's like the philosophical equivalent of a world tour, taking the show on the road and adapting it to the different audiences. Now, early in this work, Aquinas lays out his metaphysical framework. It's like he's building the philosophical foundation for everything else that he'll write. So let's get into some of the key concepts. The first key concept is the nature of being. Aquinas dives deep into what it means to exist. It's like he's asking to be or not to be, and what does to be even mean? And then again, we get into essence versus existence. He argues that in all created things, what they are, essence, is distinct from the fact that they are existence. Only in God are existence and essence identical. It's like he's saying for most things, existing is just something we do. For God, existing is who he is. And then matter and form. Aquinas will adopt Aristotle's hylomorphic theory, where physical objects are a composite of matter and form. It's like he's saying everything's a combo meal, matter's the fries, form is the burger. And then analogy of being. Aquinas argues that being is spoken of analogically across different categories. It's like he's saying when we talk about the being of a rock or a dog and God, we're using the same word, but not in the exact same way. Now, this work was groundbreaking for much of Aquinas' later philosophy. It's kind of like we get the behind-the-scenes documentary of his work. Now, Aquinas wasn't just a two-hit wonder. He had plenty of other, we'll call them philosophical bangers. First is Commentary on the Sentences. No, this was not a book on grammar. Aquinas' early work is commenting on Peter Lombard's sentences. It's kind of like the philosophical debut album where he's kind of covering the classics and starting to show his own style. And then we have on the eternity of the world. Aquinas argues that philosophy alone can't prove whether the world is eternal or had a beginning. It's like he's saying the when did it all begin debate is above philosophy's pay grade. And then on the unity of the intellect. Aquinas takes on Averro's ideas of a single shared human intellect. It's like he's defending intellectual property rights for individual souls. And then on kingship, Aquinas' political philosophy, arguing for monarchy as the best form of government with some important caveats. So, while we often think about Aquinas as the serious philosophical heavyweight, he also had his quirky side too. Here are some fun anecdotes about Aquinas. First, the floating friar. Legend has it that Aquinas was once seen levitating in prayer. When asked about it, he supposedly said, "I would not have believed it if I had not seen it with my own eyes." So even saints can be skeptics. And then my favorite, the distracted diner. Once while dining with King Louis of France, Aquinas suddenly slams his fist on the table and exclaimed, "And that will settle the Mancini's." He had just figured out an argument about heresy and completely forgot where he was. That's a whole different level of being lost in thought. And then the miraculous menu. When asked what he wanted as a reward for his writings, Aquinas reportedly replied, "I'll take a commentary on Matthew's Gospel." And then the heavenly tailor. In one of his visions, Aquinas claims that an angel came and tightened his belt as a sign of chastity. So he was the original 40-year-old virgin. Now, Aquinas' influence, it's colossal. He synthesized Christian theology with Aristotelian philosophy. He provided a philosophical framework that's still central to Catholic thought, and his ideas on natural law influenced legal theory. His just war theory is still debated in international relations, and his proof of God's existence, they're still discussed in philosophy of religion classes worldwide. In 1567, Pope Pius proclaimed Aquinas a doctor of the church, and in 1879, Pope Leo declared Aquinas' theological system to be an authentic expression of Catholic doctrine. It's like Aquinas became the Catholic Church's official philosopher 600 years after his death. But Aquinas' influence extends far beyond the Catholic Church. His ideas have been engaged with by philosophers and theologians of all stripes, from Islamic scholars to secular ethicists. His systematic approach to philosophy and his attempt to reconcile faith and reason, they continue to inspire thinkers today. And remember, as you're wrestling with these concepts, that understanding Aquinas is like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while reciting the Nicene Creed. It's tricky, but if you keep at it, eventually you will get it. So keep flexing those mental muscles, and don't forget to question everything, but do it systematically and with an awareness of the harmony between faith and reason. Aquinas would want it that way. And hey, next time someone asks you what would Jesus do, you can reply, well, according to Aquinas' theory of divine simplicity and perfect goodness, combined with his understanding of natural law and the virtues, and then sit back and watch as they realize they've accidentally stumbled into a scholastic disputation.